Hello, friends, and welcome to the Monday Show. This is our weekly topical discussion. I am your host, Wes. With me, as always, is Roots, and Alex, the normal host of this show, is on holiday today. So, like I said, this is our weekly Monday topical discussion where we pick some topic and just talk it out, have fun talking about some facet of VR gaming. This is normally Alex's thing. He normally uh, does most of the preparation for this show, comes up with most of the ideas for the topics. And with Alex being gone today, we decided to do something a little bit different and just pick a little less serious of a topic, something that's a little bit more fun to talk about. And it's something that we've all thought about from time to time, I'm sure. Anyone who's a VR enthusiast has had these sorts of thoughts, and that is our favorite movies and or television shows that we would love to see in VR. And basically what we're going to do here is Roots and I have narrowed down or basically just chosen 5 different movies or television shows that we would like to see some sort of adaptation in VR. So maybe we would want to see it as a game. Maybe we would want to see it as an experience or a 360 video. Uh, Whatever. It's all just kind of a hypothetical, fun conversation that we're going to have, and hopefully you guys will join in the comments and on the Discord and tell us what would you like to see be brought into VR. So let's just go ahead and get started with it here. And Roots, what's your first franchise that you would like to see adapted into VR?
Okay. Well, I'm going to start backwards, I guess, and go with my number 5, or at least the fifth one is in importance to me, which would be Sliders. And it's a television show that really was intriguing much of 20 years ago, I guess. And they're actually thinking about bringing it back, but it has to do with traveling between parallel universes. And the whole premise is they get sucked into this portal thing, and they keep getting on a timer, keep getting portal transferred between Earth to Earth, and each Earth is a little bit different. And so they're trying to get back home, but they're finding themselves in predicaments. I just think from the way this show goes, history's changed in different ways. Maybe World War II, the Nazis won, or whatever. They just different scenarios that I thought, from a story standpoint, maybe an experience, or even like a series of experiences where you're the main character and you're trying to get home, and you're traveling to whatever, like any possible type of scenario you could imagine. I just think that would be pretty cool, and it's a world that I would like to check out.
Yeah, sounds cool, man. I don't particularly remember this particular show, but it's the great thing about VR is that there's no limitations on your reality. They can do whatever they want, these game developers, and if they want to give us some sort of a game where we're able to experience and travel into parallel universes, it's a cool concept. Even if it wasn't based on the Sliders show, it's a cool concept to be able to go into a reality that's just a little bit off from the one that we're used to. So yeah, definitely a good premise and a good pick. With my number 5, I'm also going to go with a little bit lesser of a known television show. It's a show from Cinemax that actually is a little more recent. It was on just a few years ago. It's a show called Outcast. And what Outcast is, it's an adaptation from a comic book written and created by Robert Kirkman, who is the creator of the Walking Dead comic book and television series. And basically, it has to do, it's kind of like a story about possession, but it's a little different than your classical exorcist type possession. It's a little more science fiction-y. the basic premise is that there's this event coming where these demon-like entities are supposedly going to try to cross over and take over our reality. And as we approach this event, more and more people in this guy's town are becoming possessed with these things, and for some reason he's immune to it. He has power over it and the ability to cast these things out. And as you progress through the story, you come to find out that people in positions of power, business owners, government officials, everyone end up being influenced, possessed by these things, or under the control of someone who is. And it's a really, really cool twist on the classic possession story. Very well done by Robert Kirkman, and something I would love to experience in VR.
Yeah, it looks really creepy as hell, dude. I was watched a little bit of it when I downloaded the clip, but I'm watching it here and I'm like, man, if I was in this world, it would be an experience for sure. Yeah, definitely a good pick for sure.
Yeah, they did 2 or 3 seasons of it on Cinemax. They adapted 15 or 20 issues of the comics into television form, and the story got kind of big. The story kind of grew toward the end of the last season, and it got a little bit hard to follow there toward the end. And maybe that's why it got canceled. But what they did do was very well done, and I think it'd be good in VR. So what's your number 4?
Okay, my number 4 is a game that already exists in VR, but not in the form that I want, which is Star Trek. And I chose this clip because I've always loved the holodeck, and the possibilities of that involved in a story where you're actually on the ship, you're running around, you're going on the planets, you've got the Borg, like I just feel like a story-driven Star Trek game that you're literally able to go down to the planet and investigate and just do different stuff. I just think could be an amazing game, and I feel like the Star Trek game that exists now is cool, but it's kind of like a flight simulator of sorts. And not to be rude, but I don't want to play with other people sometimes. I just want to play Star Trek and be in the world and check out all that it has to do without having to deal, because there's a lot of douchebags on there. I don't know if you've ever tried the Star Trek, but I've ran into some special people.
Yeah, I get it, man. With these games, it seems like with VR especially that they're adapting a lot of these franchises into VR, but they're not giving us the type of game that you would think we would get, like Marvel Powers United VR or Rick and Morty. Just to name a couple of examples, you kind of would have expected a different type of game for those two, but we're still waiting. And I think Star Trek's another good example of that. A story-driven Star Trek game would be awesome.
Yeah.
But for my number 4, I'm going to go to a movie franchise that I think would also do well in VR, and it would be another story-driven adventure game, or probably a trilogy of games if they did it correctly, and that is Back to the Future. Growing up, Back to the Future was one of my very favorite movies, and it's even still one of my favorite franchises of all time. I really love the movies from this particular time period, and this is chief among them. And why would it be good in VR? I think it's pretty obvious here. Everything about this would be great in VR. The time traveling aspect, the flying car, everything. And one thing that I miss about the way video games used to be as compared to how they are now, used to when they adapted television shows and movies into VR, or not into VR, but into a video game, it would pretty much be a carbon copy of what happened in the movie. You would pretty much know what you were going to do next because you saw the movie, and it was basically like you were playing through it. but they don't do enough of that anymore. And I think that VR is the perfect medium for that type of game. I would love to enter into the Back to the Future 1 as Marty McFly and play an objective-based game where I'm traveling back and forth to 1955 and 1985, and then as we go on through the circles, through the sequels, rather, going on into the 2000s and back to the Old West, objective-based adventure gameplay, and it would be perfect for this particular franchise. And hopefully they'll do it while we still have Michael J. Fox and Christopher Lloyd around to lend their voices.
Yeah, this was also one of my favorites. I've watched all three of them probably 100 times, and I agree. I think it would be amazing for everything you said, and I hopefully they'll listen and they'll make it. I guess I don't know.
Yeah, they made a flat game that was, I want to say PlayStation 2 era, Nintendo Wii, like the first Wii. They made a newer Back to the Future game that I'm pretty sure that Christopher Lloyd and Michael J. Fox lent their voices to. If they did it once, I'm sure that they would do it again, especially with the technology that we have available to us today. They could really make an unforgettable experience, and if done right, maybe one of the better VR games that we've ever played.
They could even branch off and like put stuff in between scenarios, like have a little bit of what and then it branches into something in a similar time thing or in between, or so you're incorporating stuff that you don't know as well. And I don't know. I'm surprised that they haven't, or maybe they have considered it, but I definitely think it would be awesome in VR.
Yeah. Star Wars is really good for that, for filling in the gaps between their movies and stories with other stories or novels or comics or video games. It seems like everything that the Star Wars Lucasfilms put out is somehow officially tied into the story, even if it is adjacent or in some in-between timeline, in between the better-known stories. So, yeah, I agree. A ton of potential here. Hopefully one day we'll see it.
Yeah.
All right, number 3, Roots, what do you got?
All right. For number 3, I chose another franchise that, even though in the movies era it's getting a little played out and the last couple haven't been the best, maybe some of the acting, I don't know, but I think in VR Transformers would be amazing from a story standpoint, and just from watching these things transform right before your eyes, or just everything that you see in the movie, they could replicate and make it even better in VR. And the scenarios that they have in this, and it's an action-packed movie, so I would imagine a game could be phenomenal. I've played some Transformer games in the past, and none of them really lived up to what I would think would be a good game, or really that good. So,
yeah, again, a lot of potential here. Another example of a good, lot of potential here for developers to play with scale. These robots are so huge and fast. They could really create some wow moments in VR if they were to develop a Transformers game. Also a very popular franchise. This could possibly be a system sale or something that would bring people into VR. So yeah, another good one with the Transformers.
now would they be able to get what's his name to get in there and do a cameo, just do it for it, or maybe not?
Hey, money talks,
Yeah.
I think, is the bottom line here. But we're talking about this stuff in today's terms, where VR is still kind of a fledgling technology. But I think in about 5 years' time, VR is going to be a more mainstream thing, and these type of things that we're fantasizing about right now are actually going to be a lot more common. As VR breaks into the mainstream.
Yeah, because most of what we have is like experiences of entities that we never heard of. If they can do the same thing on a grander scale on something that everybody wants to check out, or they know, they've got an amazing brand like the Transformers. I just think I think it's going to be sooner than 5 years, but that's me speculating. So
Yeah, it's just going to take a matter of time. It's just a matter of time until everyone has had a headset on, and that's what it takes. It takes these movie guys actually physically putting a headset on and seeing the potential. And now that we have Oculus Quest and people have VR in their back pocket with them at all times, it's going to accelerate the transition into the mainstream exponentially. It's an exciting time. Definitely a topic all to itself that we could have done and probably will on a future Monday show.
all right, my number two is a pretty popular franchise. I think they've done two now, but it's Ant-Man. And the biggest thing about this, I mean, obviously right off the bat, you can just the scale alone, and it's a superhero game, and he's tiny, but he's pretty badass. I wish I had that suit. The things he can do with that, but just the implications of what they could do with the scale, and either small or big, because he does grow super big, so things would get shrunk, and then being able to fly around and just be a part of that world, I think would be really cool.
Yeah, again, scale being one of the most impressive things in modern VR games, and you hit the nail on the head here with the ability to shrink or grow. It creates the potential for some very good puzzles, as well as some just impressive visuals. So yeah, another good one with Ant-Man.
Yeah. Harry Potter, and this beginning scene right here. I played a game back on the I think it was Super Nintendo or one of the Nintendos, and it was a Quidditch game, and I always thought, oh, that's pretty cool, but I always thought if I could actually be on the broom and do it and play, and maybe even have a full game, which probably wouldn't be as cool as the actual just having it be a small part of the Harry Potter world, but the grand hall, just walking in and being able to explore the entire castle, even if they just had that as an experience, would be amazing for people. I just think it would be really cool.
Yeah, Harry Potter, a no-brainer, an absolute a perfect match for VR. I think that as good as the movies are, it would be even better to experience this story from start to finish in a series of VR games. And this goes back to what I was saying a moment ago. The way they used to make video games for movies is a basic one-to-one adaptation from the movie. Harry Potter is an example that got that kind of adaptation on the older flat gaming systems. As each movie came out, it had a video game counterpart where you play the role of Harry and basically do what Harry did in the movie. And it was awesome then, and it would be even more awesome now in VR.
Yeah, especially if you could stab your sword through that dragon's mouth or whatever, that snake. Yeah.
Yeah, there's just so much potential on so many different levels for this with the creatures and the magic and the environments. And I mean, this is a pretty epic tale when you think about all the things that happen from start to finish in this. And it would be very memorable to experience from the inside, I'm sure.
Yeah.
All right, and my number one is actually something that's very similar, something that would be great in VR for the very same reasons that Harry Potter would, and that is The Lord of the Rings. Classic literature made in the classic movies, an epic adventure, one of my very favorite movie franchises. When I watch these movies, I always watch the director's cuts, and each one of the three of them are somewhere from 3.5 to 4 hours long, and I love every minute of it. And I think it's another example of a great adventure that would be perfectly told in VR. If you started out as Frodo in the Shire at the very beginning, as Gandalf uh, rides in for Bilbo's 111th birthday, it would be fun to experience that party. It would be fun to feel the power of the ring as you gain access or gain possession of it, and the danger, the everything that this story gives you as you travel and make your way to Mount Doom, uh, absolutely would be breathtaking in VR. And just like Harry Potter is a no-brainer and probably would be better in VR than it was as a movie, I think that the same could be said here. This is pretty much, it's like it was custom made to be a VR game. And I very much would love to enjoy this from the inside.
Yeah, like you said, I mean, just with the ring and being able to, like, you got to stealth past some things and just checking out, like, you nailed it. You know, when we played these games back in the day, the same thing that sucked about those story driven games, because they kind of sucked. You know, I remember bitching about it, saying, well, I want to play something different. I watched the movie. But when you're in the game, when you're in that world, you're getting to be a part of the movie, and so it would be different. It would, you know, it would have to incorporate some different things that you didn't know about, but you could follow along the same storyline and really the battles. And even if you took an adaptation of it and maybe you had a co-op game or a multiplayer game where you could, you know, play 4 players and one of you could be the troll and one could be Legolas, and, you know, there's just a lot of potentials. And let's, you know, the elephant in the room, who doesn't want to be Sam Wise? You know, like, you could be Sam, like, he's the nail that he's more important than everybody else, and I'm being facetious. But yeah,
Yeah, so many awesome scenes in this movie, or series, this trilogy, battles that I would love to just experience first person, like in the mines of Moria, as all those trolls come up and come after you, and you have to escape at the end, and then there's the Balrog that comes after you, and Gandalf has to stop the Balrog, and the Battle of Helm's Deep. How epic was that? I mean, I could go on for an hour about the stuff in this franchise that any one of them would make an awesome VR game by itself. Just a no-brainer. Hopefully, as VR begins to seep into the mainstream, the Hollywood producers will begin to see the potential in VR as a medium, and we'll start to get this sort of thing. And it's a cash cow, a potential boom of money. Not only would it bring people into VR, but this is something I would pay big bucks for without giving a second thought. These sorts of things that we have listed here.
it's gonna happen, just from the standpoint of a lot of these series that we've talked about have played their course. They've run their course. They're done. There's not much more that they can do with it. They've done the Hobbit series. Back to the Future aren't making any more movies. So, like, this is a whole different venue that they can do, that they can, you know, like you said, another cash cow, and a whole potentially different type of viewers that maybe had never seen the originals. Younger people, maybe, I don't know.
Yeah, and especially this particular time period. You know, a lot of these actors from these older movies and television shows, they may have gotten older. They may not look the same. They may not be physically able to act through these scenes again, so you can't reboot it on a screen per se. But they all have their voices, and their voices are pretty much the same as they ever were. And it's an interesting opportunity if they don't let, you know, time slip away and lose some of these actors. It's a interesting opportunity to get these guys in the studio, put a microphone in front of them, and immortalize these franchises forever.
Well, and with it being audio only, the beauty is too, they don't have to, it's not like a traditional movie where everybody has to be together at the same time. That's one of the biggest problems with sequels and bringing people back together. Everybody wants a readaptation of this movie or whatever, but logistically getting all those actors back together, maybe they're on projects, maybe they're doing other movies, you know, just logistically it makes it difficult. So if they could just go in somewhere real quick, or, you know, every so often, or even maybe record it from home if they've got the equipment, I don't know, but there's a lot of more potential for them to piece it together and make it happen these days than say maybe 10 years ago.
Yeah, well, let's just hope that Facebook achieves their goal of getting these billions of people in VR before these older actors slip away and we lose the potential. Which, you know, I say that, but you know, with the way the technology is now, they're going to be able to modulate these people's voices, and we're going to have perfect clones, digital clones of these people in 20 years' time.
How do we know we don't have them now?
Yeah, you're probably right.
You know?
We've probably lost these people years ago, and we just don't even know it yet.
Yeah.
All right, with that, we're going to go ahead and wrap it up here. Again, what would you like to see adapted into VR? Be sure to leave us a comment down in the comments below, or even on Discord, and let's keep the conversation going here. I know I enjoyed this conversation very much, and let's keep it going. So yeah, if you liked the video, you know what to do. Click the thumbs up. If you didn't like it and you don't like these sorts of things, click the thumbs down. If you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe and click the notification bell, and be on the lookout for the rest of the week, as we got reviews coming up this week and every week to come. So I want to thank you for watching. For Roots, I'm Wes, and we will see you tomorrow, friends.
Stay easy.
Bye-bye.